Is anyone there that can see me to say that I'm broadcasting publicly? So can you make the chat, enable chat box? Can anyone? Hey. Lucia is here from Amsterdam. Anyone else here? Attendees? Hi, Shawnee. Hi, I've had really bad technical difficulties. Apologies for that. Perhaps you could just in the chat just say hi and that you can hear me, Sean. Really, really appreciate you hanging in there for nearly half an hour, nearly 30 minutes. Lucia, you're super. Thank you so much for logging in. So I am finally live, it would appear, on a webinar, on Webinar Jam. So welcome to everybody, all two people that have stayed. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Unfortunately, my webinar software was not syncing to Google Hangouts, and I was on Google Hangouts and not on the webinar itself. So really sincere apologies for that. Welcome to the webinar. And you know, I'm really delighted to be here. Yeah, can I just ask the two people that are attending, because I can do this as a recording or I can do it now, whichever suits. So which would you guys prefer? Because it would mean another hour of your time, which I know is quite precious. So I am quite happy to record it. I've figured out the technical difficulties now. I can record this and send it to you. So what do you guys think? So do you guys want me to continue, or I can send a replay to everyone? It's kind of really disappointing, really, because I've had people from the States, from Canada, from Australia, and loads of different countries signing up for this webinar. So apologies that, yeah, refresh the page. Yes, thank you, Shawnee. Okay, well, do you know what? I'm going to continue. If you guys can stay on, that would be great. If you can't, I totally understand, and I will send a replay in any case. So I suppose, first of all, welcome to the webinar, Profiting from Understanding Your Customers. So I'm Emma D from Emma D Marketing, and I'm going to be your host for today. So yeah, so Lucia, I can see there you'd love to get the recording now, then I can go back to work if you don't mind. Yeah, no problem at all. I said if you guys want to pop in and pop out, that's fine. I understand completely that I have taken ages getting this working, so apologies for that. So whichever suits, in any case, you will be receiving the replay, so you can stop and start as you wish. So I suppose really I'd like again to welcome you all, and you know, today, if you just think of it in terms of, you know, learning about your customer and the psychology of them and their decision-making process, and I'm hoping to help you with all of that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to dive right in, because again, we're late starting, and I'm going to do I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation, and I will run through that, and that will literally structure the whole webinar. I can send that on to you as well if you'd like. So I'm just going to share the screen, and I will show you so bear with me. Okay, my computer's a bit slow. So, profiting from knowing your customer. Well, first of all, as you know, my name is Emma Darcy, or Emma D as I go by. And I suppose if you look at this quote, it's half the money I spent on advertising is wasted. Don't know which half. And this was from John Wanamaker, pioneer in marketing. And you know, you can see where he's coming from. You know, we've all spent money on marketing on advertising and whatnot. And it's a case of understanding where you are spending it and what's actually working, because sometimes it seems like we actually don't know. That is a bit of my own background. I've a degree in business and marketing and a master's in marketing, consumption and society. I have 20 years business experience in a variety of sectors such as agriculture, bloodstock industry, retail, sales, market research, lecturing, the educational sector, logistics, warehousing, and small to medium businesses. I've literally worked with hundreds of small to medium businesses in the last couple of years. And also, even just in the last 3 years alone, I've earned my clients over 10 million in revenue. So, what I'm doing does seem to work. And so, I do have experience in this area. So first of all, I suppose in terms of my own story, just a little bit of background. I grew up on a farm, hence the agricultural industry. So I grew up learning to buy and sell hay and straw, cattle and horses and whatnot. And I suppose at the time I didn't really appreciate it, but it was really, really helpful to me later on as an entrepreneur, because I had the customer relationship management skills, I had the selling skills. I'd gained a lot of skills that I was not aware of when I was younger. And also I have all the knowledge of agriculture, well, not all of it, but I would know quite a bit. So that's really helpful and sometimes really surprising, particularly to guys when they're talking about stuff and I actually know what they're talking about in terms of agriculture. So also I worked in the bloodstock industry, buying and selling horses, and literally buying and selling horses from £60 to $1 million. I've worked in horse sales here in Ireland, in the UK, in Newmarket, in Kentucky. I typically worked freelance. And I suppose one of the biggest things I learned was that people being able to trust you is of huge, huge importance in terms of when people are buying and selling. So it doesn't matter what you're selling, be it a horse, be it cattle, be it a product, be it a service. If people trust you, they're more likely to buy from you. And that was a huge lesson to me, no matter what I was buying or selling. That when people trust me, that they would come to me and literally ask my opinion and they would buy on that basis. You can see here I have positioning of the horse is really important. But if you look at that, obviously the horse is an animal, but if you look at the horse in terms of packaging, what it looks like, it has to look well, it has to be washed, it has to be turned out well. Equally, if you've got a product or you've got a service, you've got to be able to package it in such a way that people will view it in a very positive light and therefore that they will buy it. So that's really, really important. And I suppose really that was my background and one of my bigger lessons. I also worked as a veterinary nurse. I really have a long and checkered career history, but I suppose really the running theme has been selling and being able to sell, veterinary drugs. I used to be responsible for purchasing them and selling them in terms of obviously for animals, surgical equipment, dealing with clients, sensitive situations, again, being able to speak to people, relationship management, which again, no matter what industry you're in, it's really, really super important. I worked with horses obviously and in the agricultural industry for a number of years when I left school, and I then decided to go and get a proper job with Lidl Ireland GmbH, or Lidl, which is a German supermarket chain, and GmbH is basically German for limited. And I worked in sales and stock control and in purchasing. This business was huge. It's well over 4,000 stores all over Europe. They're in the States now and Australia as well. We had 90 loading bays, 300,000 square foot warehouse. I was purchasing for 64 stores, European suppliers, worldwide suppliers, so I learned an awful lot about logistics and about buying and selling and merchandising while I worked in Lidl. I worked very hard, as did everybody there, and I learned a lot in terms of selling and positioning a product. So what I've learned with all of my background is a lot of what I have done in the past has hugely helped me with my clients when I'm working with them today, because I've worked in so many diverse industries. I also worked as a warehouse manager with a toy and paper company, and they were changing from an old system to a new, massive cultural changes. So if anybody's worked in that sort of environment, you're changing, you've got to have leadership skills and all that sort of stuff. So again, gaining huge experience working with people and also in implementing newer systems, which again is of huge importance to a lot of people that I would go to in terms of my clients. I suppose a lot of what I've learned is about the customer having the right product and service and how important that is, and trust. I also imported wine into Ireland. I worked in sales, market research, lecturing, training, and more recently as a marketing consultant in social media, pricing, business overall and whatnot, and business, and I'm a business and marketing coach. So just to give you a little bit of background of who I am, and that I have the required standard, if you like, to be able to run this webinar and to be able to advise you. Okay, again, as I said, I did a master's, this is my master's, and this was my degree. I went back as a mature student, so in 2006, and that was hugely valuable to me. And actually, funny enough, the university that I went to, they actually, then after doing my master's in marketing, they asked me to come back and help them with their marketing. So that was quite nice, and I still do a lot of work for them, so that's a nice accolade to have as well. Different businesses I've worked with, you can see there, and so, okay, we've been starting quite late, so I'll skip straight into everything. So I suppose the webinar outline really is around understanding your consumer market and the major factors that influence consumer buying behavior. That's hugely important, okay? Today we're going to identify and discuss the stages in the buyer decision process. Again, this is something that isn't discussed typically online. There's just one or two people that are doing it, Social Triggers, and there's another guy, Sean D'Souza, that are doing it, but typically there's not that many. There's people touching on it, but not actually doing it in a major way. So I hear people talking all the time about their ideal customer avatar, as in their ideal customer. There's different names for it, but essentially it's the same thing. It's about understanding your customer and what drives them to buy, what influences them. So we're going to do today as well about defining the business market and identifying the major factors that influence buyer behavior, and list and define the steps in the business buying decision process. Again, it sounds a bit highfalutin business speak, but I am trying to diffuse that, and I will talk around it and just give some examples as well. One of the examples I use as a case study is the Harley-Davidson motorcycle group, and essentially they are a huge business. It's a brand that's well recognized the world over. It captures 23% of all US bike sales and 50% of the heavyweight motorcycle market segment in the US. There's a bit of slant towards the US here, but you can see it is a very popular brand all over the world. It's well recognized. Their sales, have outstripped supply. They have 2-year waiting lists. It's a phenomenal success story. I suppose one of the reasons for this is that the marketers in Harley-Davidson spend a great deal of time thinking about their customers and their buying behavior. So they really sit back and they think. And, this is really important in any business. If you're a business owner, you're running a business, if you're a CEO or whatever the case may be, you do take the time to sit back and think, okay, who are my customers? And why are they buying the product or service? Can we improve on it? Can we do something in terms of our marketing communications that will help them to understand how good our product or service is and to encourage them to buy? And I suppose one of the things about Harley-Davidson is that people feel, that they identify with the brand itself. They're very brand loyal. And they feel that they're part of the brand. They actually feel that it represents them as a person. And, one of the things, to think of is Harley management. They put a top priority on understanding customers, and a lot of businesses don't. And this is kind of where they fall down. So the question is for you, focus a priority on understanding customers in your business. And if not, then, try and take some notes, because it should hugely help you today. Okay, so who is their customer? Well, the average Harley-Davidson customer is a 46-year-old husband with a median household income of $78,000. That's American dollars. More than 10% of Harley purchases are made by women. So again, there's kind of entry-level kind of women coming into the frame, if you like. And again, as a business, you need to understand if brands or businesses, if their customer base is starting to change, you need to be aware of that and adjust your marketing communications and your marketing objectives based on this type of information. So it's very important, for example, to go back to your Google Analytics, your Facebook Insights, any of your social media insights that you may have, or Google Analytics, and look at the stats and see who is coming to your website, who is coming to your Facebook, who's coming to your social media, where are they coming from, and translate that into sales. Who's actually buying? Are they coming and going away, or are they staying and are they buying? So this is really important information for any business to understand, be it if you're a solopreneur or if you're a big business like Harley-Davidson. So basically what Harley-Davidson did is they conducted a focus group. And I have conducted many focus groups. And if you're not sure what to look getting 6 to maybe 12, maybe more people, not too many more, into a room and having preset questions to ask them. And really what you're doing is trying to figure out what they think of your product or service. And that's hugely important information, because oftentimes when you're in business, you can assume that people think X, Y, and Z, and that may not be the case. So it's very important to, conduct a focus group at least maybe once a year, or at the very least once every 2 years. And the thing is, you have to get somebody independent to run it, because, we all tend to be biased towards our businesses. So it's very important to get an independent person to run the focus group, to get them to record it, to get them to analyze people's answers, and then to come step back and see, what do your customers think? And do you need to change your marketing strategy and your business strategy as a result of this focus group? You might find that you end up going down into new product lines, and you might find that you're closing one, but essentially what it is, it's very dynamic and very much present information that's really important that you use. And you're basically analyzing your customer's opinion, which is hugely, hugely important, because they're the people buying your product or service. Now, Harley-Davidson conducted a focus group, and they also mailed out 160,000 surveys. So again, you can go onto SurveyMonkey, for example. There are surveys even available, like polls on Facebook, for example. You can do very simple surveys, but to make sure that you're getting feedback from your customers is hugely important, because it helps you to make very good decisions for your business. Okay, so 7 core customer types for Harley-Davidson, and I suppose really just the reason I'm using Harley-Davidson is that it's a really well-known brand, and you can kind of see why they've come up with these different customer types. And it's also interesting to note that it's not just one customer type, there's actually 7 that they've come up with. So if you look at the adventure-loving traditionalists, so you can kind of think of the old guys, if you like, sitting back, and long hair dudes with their leather gear on the bicycles, wind in their hair, heading off having an adventure. But they're traditionalists really at heart, but they're adventure loving as well. You've got the sensitive pragmatists, who different kind of sensitive people who you wouldn't maybe necessarily associate with Harley-Davidson, but who actually do love the brand as well. You've got stylish status seekers. Again, status seekers, something particularly with high level brands, that they are kind of aspirational people, where they are trying to be stylish, they're trying to be aspirational, in that for the higher brands, they're trying to be seen to consume. And what I mean by consume is buy higher end brands, because they want to be seen to have them. It's kind of like keeping up with the Joneses, Now I know I'm speaking quite fast, so hopefully you can all keep up with me. So I just have a lot of content to get through, so that's why I'm speaking quite fast, is to get through it all. So stylish status seekers, laid back campers. Again, you can see why Harley-Davidson has laid back campers. People just want that open road. They don't want to be part of kind of the everyday life, if you like. Maybe it's just for the weekend, but they're the laid back campers. Then you've got classy capitalists, who basically really, really enjoy having a really, really good brand, a really good bike, and they're capitalists. They believe in making money, they believe in having the best, and they're considered to be classy as well. You've got cool-headed loners, people on the open road, again, that don't want to necessarily be in with the group, but really love that whole lifestyle. And again, if you look at Harley-Davidson, it's a lifestyle brand. So go back to your own business, your own brand. Is it a lifestyle brand? Is it an experience? Because that's really what people are looking for. They're looking for something different nowadays. So, so look back through, do focus groups, do surveys, look at what information you have at present as well, and kind of make a list, something like this, to help you to understand your customers. Number 7 I really like is the cocky misfits. So again, the tattoos and whatnot, these are kind of cocky individuals who love to be associated with the Harley-Davidson brand. So I would really recommend that, you all sit down and actually work out your core customer types, because everyone will find you have a few. And if you're looking at, say, from the Harley-Davidson point of view, what they have found is, and the analysts then obviously are the marketers doing the market research, is that they're basically saying that it's more than a machine. It's part of the customer's self-expression and lifestyle. It's part of their identity. So there's a lot of strong emotions involved, and motivations are captured in classy Harley-Davidson advertisements. So the advertisements are very, very are very important because they sway people towards feeling strong emotions and motivations towards their Harley Davidson. So people associate with the different brands, be it BMW, Harley Davidson, be it lower end brands if people are price sensitive. So when you're looking at something like Harley Davidson, you know, again, it's self-expression, it's self-identity, it's lifestyle. They have very strong emotions towards us. They're very brand loyal. So if you've got something like that, or if you can try and build a business like that, you will find that people stay with you forever, or for a very, very long time in any case. So, you know, if you look at Seth Godin or quite a number of other marketers that would talk about the tribe, this is what a tribe is. It's self-expression, it's lifestyle, it's being connected to other people, you know, with kind of other people that have Harley Davidsons, but also, for example, if you're into weight loss, people want to be connected to other people that are in a weight loss program. If you're doing coaching, they want to be, you know, your customers want to be involved with the other people on your program as well, because, you know, they've got similar stories. They want to engage with the other people and not just with you. And that's one of the really, really strong elements of having a good tribe. So secret Facebook groups are fantastic because they mean people can, you know, engage with each other without the whole world seeing their messages. And, you know, if, like, for example, when I was doing a lot of sales, one of the things we used to always say is people like those like them. So in other words, if you meet somebody and you're into scuba diving or skydiving, and you meet somebody else that has the similar hobbies, you will automatically feel a rapport with them. You will gravitate towards them because you've got similar mindset, you know, you believe in the same sort of things. So it's the same thing if you've got secret Facebook groups, if you've got a tribe of people, be it through email marketing or whatever the case is. But it's very important if you can create a platform of people where they can engage with each other, such as Harley Davidson did. It means you create very strong emotional connection to your brand, and you know that people tend to be very loyal. Okay, so consumer buying behavior then is just really the buying behavior of people who buy goods and services for their personal use. It's just really about understanding that. So that's just a definition. It's nothing really to worry about. And the market then is just the individuals, the households, the people that actually, you know, the market itself. And then I suppose the consumer behavior model then is where people make buying decisions every day. Some of them you're buying beans, you're buying eggs, you're buying bread. There's not a lot of thought that goes into it. But equally, you've got higher end purchases, like a house, like a car, and following on from that, maybe clothes. And these things actually, you know, clothes, for example, represent who you are as a person. So you're putting out to the world what you feel. So if you like the sophisticated look, if you like a grunge look, depending on what sort of look that you like, you are literally saying to other people that, you know, this is the type of person that I am. This is what I'm affiliated to. This is my tribe. This is what I believe in. And the way you dress signifies a lot to other people. So people make buying decisions based on who they think they are, or indeed who they want to portray themselves to be. Again, that keeping up with the Joneses thing. So most large companies research their consumer buying decisions in great detail to answer questions about what consumers buy, where they buy, how and how much they buy, when they buy, why they buy. But really, it's very difficult to figure this out because what you've got to do is actually get into the consumer's mind. So what I would suggest to you is literally to look at your consumer, look at your customer, and really ask them questions when you meet them. If you're online, ask them, you know, why are you buying this? You know, what resonates with you? Find out, you know, get deep down and dirty really with your customers and figure out what's their mindset when they're buying from you. And also if they're referring you on, be very aware of why people are referring you on, because, you know, there's a particular reason that they are. And if you can get the reason why they are, you know, it'll be hugely important in terms of your future marketing and business campaigns. So really, I suppose the big question for business owners and marketers is how do consumers respond to various marketing efforts the company or your business might use? And starting point is the stimulus response model of buying behavior. Well, really what you're trying to do is it's for people to be very aware of your brand or service. And the way of doing that is really to have, you know, well, there's a couple of things. You can have lots of advertising, you can do a lot of social media, you can do radio, you can do TV, you can do video, do YouTube, do email marketing. There's so much that you need or could do. But the thing is, you need to understand your customers first before you can make those decisions. And usually what you find is you've got, in any case, you've got an integrated marketing campaign. And what that means is you're using multiple marketing strategies to reach out to your customers. Okay, what you've got to remember is people are on different platforms, they're on different wavelengths. So some people will really appreciate an email, some people want to see a Facebook post, some people want to be on Pinterest, some people want to be on Twitter. You know, they're on various different mediums, and you know, as a business owner, you've got to know where your customers are and how you can engage with them. So when you figure that out, and sometimes it's literally just figuring it out, it's trying it. So basically your marketing is, you know, your product, your price, your packaging, your place, your promotion. Other things to consider as well are the economy, you know, particularly with the recession in the last couple of years. It's had a huge influence on people's buying behavior. You know, people have really cut back on what they're buying. They're only buying what they need and not necessarily what they want to or would have done, we'll say, during the boom. Technology has a huge impact as well. You know, if you've got good Wi-Fi or you don't have good Wi-Fi, or in general, how much access do you have to it? Political as well can be huge in terms of if there's new policies and whatnot that would impede people in terms of their buying behavior. For example, if there's more taxes in your country, you know, you basically have less disposable income, so that has an impact as well. Cultural differences, and I'll talk about this in greater detail, are absolutely huge in terms of marketing and other stimuli. In other words, other things that influence your customers, because everyone grows up in a culture, your country, maybe your religion, your race, whatever the case is, and they are huge at your family. They're huge influence on you as a person and what you think, and therefore that influences your buying decision. So you've got the buyer characteristics, the buyer decision process, and then you've got like your product choice, your brand choice, your dealer choice, your purchase timing, your purchase amount. So I'm not trying to make this hugely complex, but I do want to highlight a lot of this to people in terms of, you know, the product choice, you know, then it could be down. So for example, you might have somebody, you know, looking at toothpaste. I know it's a small thing to look at, but I think there's something like 37, the brand Colgate has 37 different products in the brand, you know. So you decide on the product, which is toothpaste, and then you decide on the brand, which is Colgate, and then you're deciding, you know, which one will you get the product itself. And then you're looking at the dealer. Will it be Tesco's? Will it be Super Value? Will it be Marks and Spencer's? You know, what, you know, supermarket will you go to? Then is the timing of the purchase. Will you go in the morning? Will you go in the afternoon? And this is all influenced by your family, by your work, by so many different things. Your disposable income in terms of the purchase amount. So you need to understand, again, your customer, where they come from, who they are, and what influences them. So I suppose if you get inside the consumer's head, okay, and you know, what they react to, you know, and this is where, you know, again, the analytics from your website or from your various different social media can be hugely helpful, because it'll help you to understand, you know, what are they reacting to. So for example, if you're putting up some posts on social media and people are really engaging with them, that means it's for a reason, you know, they really identify with what you're posting. And if you're looking at any brand or service, what you've got to remember is that people literally want to, people need to see your brand at least 7 times before they buy from you typically, unless it's a referral or they know you personally. So what that means is that, you know, you've got to email them, you've got to be seen to be advertising. So they'll see your brand about 7 times before it kind of seeps into their brain that, oh yeah, I need that particular plumber. Oh yes, I need that particular bicycle. I've seen that brand before, I think it's quite good. But they're not quite sure where they've seen it, but they have seen it in multiple platforms. And it's up to the marketer or the business owner to be marketing on a consistent basis and to understand what's working and what's not by the level of engagement. Looking at the analytics is hugely important because it will show you what's working and what's not. So for example, if you run a radio campaign or like a TV campaign or a YouTube campaign, and you're directing people to your website, well, if you don't have a lot of people going to your website, if the analytics show there's actually very poor amount of people actually going to the website, it means that that particular advertisement is not really working, and perhaps not to run it again, you know. So some of it is quite common sense. The other thing to look at as well is the buyer's decision process itself affects the buyer's behavior. So the types of decision making that they make, and I'll just talk about that now as well. Again, the characteristics affecting the consumer behavior, strongly cultural, like I said, is huge, social, personal and psychological characteristics as well. So we're not going to be psychologists after this, but it's just really to understand people. So this is a bit of a graphic here. So culture, like I said, subcultures then as well. So you can have an overall culture. For example, I'm Irish, so the Irish culture, but within the Irish culture, there can be people of different religions, which is subcultures, or even different hobbies, or, you know, you've got different social class, even though people say there isn't, but I suppose in many ways there is. You've got upper class, middle class, lower class, you know, and people in the different classes will wear different types of clothes typically, will drive different types of car typically, for many different reasons. So you can actually sometimes tell what social class people are from. Not always, I mean, this is a sweeping generalization, but sometimes you can, or there's a perception at least that you can. So if you are wearing a really expensive watch, some people would assume you're upper class, whereas you may not be. But there is an element of class that's, you know, that's huge in human society. And people are often trying to portray a specific social class to people by what they consume, in other words, what they buy. So if they buy a BMW car, if they buy a big house, or indeed if they buy a small house, what does that signify to everybody else? What status, what social status are they trying to say that they have? If you're looking at social, then you're looking at reference groups. And reference groups really are your friends, your hobbies, the people that influence you basically, and how they influence you, your family, your roles. So for example, if you're a manager, if you're a lower end employee, if you're, you know, depending what you are, what you believe your status is, because often it's really in your head, and indeed in other people's heads in terms of what your status is. So reference groups are hugely important, and family is hugely important, because these people will have an influence on anybody making a buying decision. So for example, if I'm thinking of buying a really expensive coat, and I say to my friends, oh, I'm going to get whatever brand of coat it is, and they say, well, really, Emma, I think that's quite expensive. Would you not buy another type of coat? Well, they could really help to sway my decision to buy, because I trust them and they're my reference group, so I listen to them, you know. So that's a really important element of human psychology to understand when you're thinking of your customer. If you're looking at people personally, then you're looking at a person's age and their life cycle. It sounds terrible, but really, you know, what age are they? Are they 19? Are they just starting out in life? You know, everything's exciting. Maybe they're in college. They're not really thinking of settling down. Whereas maybe somebody that's maybe in their late 20s or early 30s might be thinking they're at a different stage of their life. So, and again, these can be sweeping generalizations, but typically people may be thinking of settling down or thinking maybe of children perhaps. So they're at a different part in their life. So therefore they're looking for different types of brands. They're consuming different types of items, products and services. So for example, a 19-year-old is looking to rent an apartment, whereas a 30-year-old might be looking to buy an apartment. So it's those type of things to understand. Your occupation then, this is kind of an old one, but oftentimes people are looking at occupation to signify, I suppose, really your disposable income and what that is. So for example, if you're a doctor, you're deemed to have, you know, I suppose, a high level occupation, like social status and class, and also, you know, a higher disposable income because you get paid more typically. So that comes back then to your economic situation. So based on your occupation typically is, you know, that you tend to have, depending on your occupation, typically your economic situation will vary according to your occupation. Now realistically, you know, a lot of people can defy that. You know, you could have a bin man who's doing really well and could be doing better than a doctor, and you know, it really depends. But typically there's kind of like sweeping generalizations that you can try and understand. And you want to look at really is lifestyle. So often people's hobbies can signify huge things about them. If they're really outdoorsy, if they're kind of more introverted, if they're more into technology, what sort of lifestyle do they have? And their lifestyle will tell a lot about what the types of things that they will buy. Hugely, hugely important. Then you've got the personality and self-concept. This one I absolutely love because, you know, it's one that's really overlooked. So your personality is your characteristics. Are you outgoing? Are you maybe a bit more introverted? Your self-image as well, you know, what you think of yourself. So in other words, if I'm trying to portray a certain self-image, I will wear certain clothes, I will, you know, have a certain car, I would have a certain house in order to get across my self-image, you know, and it's very important to understand this. So some people will buy something or save up for something that is quite expensive because they want to be seen to have the characteristics of that brand, be it a product or service. So understanding these can be very, very helpful when you're deciding on your marketing. So for example, if you were looking at high-end pictures, it might be really important to portray a certain image, and people might buy it. Other people are quite price conscious, and they go the other way, where they want to go for the cheapest part. And and that's fine too. But the thing is, as a business owner, you need to understand that. You've got different motivations, perception, learning, beliefs, and attitudes. So people are motivated, their perception as well. People perceive things in totally different ways. Then you've got learning. People are learning differently. And the learning really is around, when they're maybe investigating buying a car, for example, they will also research your competitors. So it's very important to understand who your competitors are and what they're offering too, because people will check out what the competitors have, and they're learning. They're learning what you have and what they have, and they're making decisions based on that. Beliefs and attitudes then are very important to understand as well. And I'll just go through them in more detail now as well. And after all this, you have a buyer potentially. But where this is important really is in terms of when you're making your decisions. Am I going to do loads of social media? Am I going to email marketing? Am I going to do speaking events? How am I going to position myself as a business owner? Is it a product? Is it a service? Do I need to look at packaging? Do I need to look at personal branding? What do I need to look at? Who are my target market, and how do I manage all that? Okay. So culture. Now, culture then is the most basic cause of a person's wants and behavior. So again, like I was saying earlier, culture is learned from family, church, school, peers, and colleagues. It's very much the way we grow up. It's a learned behavior, and it tends to set us up for life. Mostly, whatever culture you grow up in, you tend to be swayed towards that hugely throughout your life. Now, some people go completely against it, but for the most part, people, you learn your values and beliefs typically from your culture. So as a business owner, you need to understand different cultures, be it Hispanic, be it Asian, be it Eastern European, be it Western European, be it, different cultures. What drives them? What do they understand? Because it can be hugely different, and you need to understand these. Again, culture reflects basic values, perceptions, wants, and behaviors. And cultural shifts create opportunities for new products or may otherwise influence consumer behavior. Okay, so subcultures then, like I was talking about earlier, are Hispanic, perhaps European, Eastern European, African American, Asian American, mature consumers, the grey market, as it's referred to, much to my mother's horror when she hears that. But there's different groups, that are part of a major culture. So for example, somebody could be American, but they could be part of the Hispanic group. Somebody could be Irish and could be part of the African Irish group, so it really depends. So you just kind of need to understand, because there'll be a major influence and then kind of a lesser influence in your subcultures as well. So again, I was talking about social class earlier, and almost every society has some form of social structure. They may say they don't, but typically there is. And typically they're relatively permanent, and people will, there's kind of like a mobility. Some people will go up in class and some people will come back down. It really depends, and some people stay about the same. Usually it's income, or it was in the past really, but it can be a mixture of occupation, income, education, wealth, and other variables. It's kind of a bit more broad these days, but social class can be an important thing to understand in terms of what people are looking for. So for example, you might have people that go to a boarding school, or some people that go to a day school or a vocational school, and there can be huge differences in the types of people that are going to those particular schools, for example. So, and they would be typically representative of social class. And again, the social class comes around, people being influenced by social factors, the consumer small groups, the family, the social rules, and the status, so that's hugely important. Then you've got opinion leaders within these groups and subcultures. So you've got leaders, and you've got a lot of celebrities, for example, that are, a lot of people follow them, footballers, special skills, knowledge, personality, and other characteristics, and people aspire to be them, so they can be hugely helpful in terms of, if you've got David Beckham or something, if anybody knows him, he's a footballer, a very famous footballer, and if he's representing your brand, that says a lot about the brand in terms of quality, high end, it signifies certain things. And most people would aspire to be him in terms of his success on the football pitch. And therefore, if he's associated with a brand or somebody like him, the brand itself is deemed to have his qualities. In your brand. For example, even we'll say with a service, I provide a service, so if I use a lot of gold, for example, that's my plan going forward, it would signify more high end. So it's little things like that can really, really help people in terms of, how you position yourself in the marketplace. Okay, family is hugely important as well in terms of buying decisions. The family members will really have an influence on on anybody really in terms of buying decisions, and then also the roles of the husband and wife as well. Person belongs to many groups, their family, their clubs, their organizations, their friends. And again, this is hugely broad. But again, if you look at focus groups, if you look, if you're kind of really panicking here, oh my gosh, how do I get all this information? Well, if you look at the focus group I was talking about at the start, if you look at even just simply sending out surveys, that will give you a huge amount of information that will help you to understand your customers as they stand. And really what you want to do then is, once you understand that, it will help to define where you go with your marketing, really, really helpful. And oftentimes as well, what you find is you've got to be able to change sometimes, because you might think, oh, you know what, I didn't realize maybe I can provide a new product or service based on your market research. Just a good one there to look at is, people look at products that are appropriate to their roles and status. If you're looking at a brand manager, they'll wear the kind of clothing that reflects the role and status of their company. Now, not maybe in their free time, but maybe for work, that they will wear certain things that reflect their position, their roles, their status. So you see a lot of people doing that sort of stuff. Like, for example, you wouldn't see people typically wearing a suit and tie on the beach and they'll be laughed at. But equally, you wouldn't see people typically in a bikini in a boardroom. So there's kind of things that you wear or don't wear that are kind of accepted socially to reflect a certain aspect of you as a person or your customer. So it's important to understand that. Personal characteristics, we spoke about this earlier: buyer's age, the life cycle, the occupation, economic situation, lifestyle, personality, and self-concept. Again, they're all hugely important. And, you really, like, as I said, once you start delving into this, it becomes very apparent who your buyers are, what influences them. You just need to do a little bit of homework, and that hugely helps you to understand who they are and what they do and why they would buy from you. If you're in a newer business, start, doing some research as well. What are people looking for? Ask questions, send out some surveys, ask them, give them like 3 options, 4 options, and see what they pick, and give them what they want. That's really the best thing you can do. So many businesses I've come across where they start up, they invest a huge amount of money, and then they realize, you know what? There's 10 of them already in this town, or there's a lot of them. They can't replicate somebody else. So it's very important you do your homework first. Again, the economic situation, lifestyle, your hobbies, work, shopping, sports, social events, your interests, food, fashion, family, recreation, your opinions about yourself, social issues, business. And a lot of this will hinge on education, again, your friends, your lifestyle. So again, like I was talking about, the lifestyle of a person that's very outdoorsy, or the person that's very technical, or the person that would watch a lot of TV or not watch TV. There's a particular type of lifestyle within that. And if you can understand that 70% of your target market watches lots of TV, are they into stories? Like, is it soaps they watch? Is it, what is it they're looking for? Can you help them? Is it kind of distraction that they want? If you're giving life coaching to them, do you need them to actually come out of that and actually create their own lifestyle? Are they unhappy? If somebody's outside all the time, does that indeed make them more happy? Are they fisher? There's all these things that you can deduce just from understanding what people do in their day-to-day lives. And even if you're not sure, why not have a Skype with them for half an hour, 15 minutes, and get to know your customers? That's a great way to do it. And ask them, what do you do? And what's your business? And where do you work? And what do you like? And, like, for example, I worked in a bridal shop when I was back in college, and selling wedding dresses, and it was a high-end shop, and it was really interesting to me the type of person that came in, that they wanted to portray a certain image, that they had this particular brand of wedding dress. And in some cases, they didn't actually care hugely what it looked like. Now, of course, they did, but I'm just saying the brand was equally as important as what the dress looked like. And that's quite an interesting thing to know. Because really what they were saying on their wedding day is, excuse me, I just need to excuse me. They had a particular dress that's beautiful, it's lace or whatever, but equally it's a particular brand, and that signified what they stood for. Also, some of the brides would come in and they'd want something very elegant, or indeed they'd have like a picture in their head, they wanted something very elegant, and they would end up getting the biggest dress in the shop, or vice versa. And just really because that's what suited them. And you would find they would have this internal struggle as to, why I didn't imagine myself walking down the aisle in this huge dress. I wanted something more elegant. And they struggled with that, even though it would really suit them. So it's just interesting to see how people would imagine how they would look in a wedding dress, or imagine how they would look in a car, or imagine if they're doing life coaching or clarity coaching as a business. They imagine what that's going to do for them, the end product, the end solution. So if you can give the solution to people, the end product, the end solution, and allow them to visualize that, help them to visualize that, do your whole marketing communications around that, you will get so many customers just doing that. It's unbelievable. Okay, again, personality and self-concept. Everyone has a distinct personality who influences their buying behavior. And again, this is quite diverse, and it looks at things like self-confidence, dominance, sociability. Again, a lot of the stuff that we were talking about already. I'm just trying to recap on some of this, just to go through it again and to identify that all of this is consumer behavior and definitely influences people's buying patterns. So look at coffee makers or marketers have discovered that heavy coffee drinkers tend to be high in sociability. Think of it, you go to Italy, you go to different countries in Europe in particular, and people are very social, they go for coffee, it's a very social thing to do, I'll meet you for coffee, people say that. So Starbucks and other coffee houses create an environment around this need for people to be social drinking coffee, So think about that, can you do something like that? Are your target market, are they very sociable? Even if you're online, can you create a forum, be it Google Hangouts or a webinar where they can, all chat or something, or on a private Facebook group or a membership site? Can people be social there? Can you do a mastermind group? Can you do different things like that that can help, your customers to be social? Give them what they want, basically. Again, this is talking about your self-concept, your self-image, and we are what we have. That's quite an interesting one. So in other words, if you've got a high-end car, you're deemed to be like that car, even though you may not be. But it's kind of like that keeping up with the Joneses, and that's why people buy certain brands, is because they believe that that brand gives them a certain identity, and if they do, even if you've got something that's, your business or your product or service is not of a well-known brand, if you can let people know that it's of high quality, they'll be willing to pay for it. You will need testimonials, you will need other things around that, but if you can let people know that once they have used your product or service, it's of high quality, that they will be X, Y, and Z, so they will be better off really at the end of using that product or service. Again, it comes back to we are what we have, if that makes sense. Motives and needs. So people are motivated, again, for different reasons: perception, learning, beliefs, and attitudes. Some of this can seem to be quite boring, but it's super important in terms of your marketing and your marketing decisions. If you look at some things, like some people, you need food. Some, you're hungry, if you're thirsty, if you're discomfort. Other aspects are psychological, arising from the need for recognition, esteem, or belonging. So it's about understanding, are you on the lower end of the scale in terms of your product or service? Do the people really have to have it? Or is it something that it's a need for recognition, it's esteem or belonging? And again, this will hugely influence how you brand yourself, how you market your particular product or service. If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it starts off with physiological needs, and then it goes to safety, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization is kind of really what you're at the creme de la creme, if you like, in that in your life you are being the best you can be, if you like, and what do you need at that stage. So if you can understand your customers at the different stages, you can give them what they need at the different stages. So if you look at the physiological needs, they probably need like food and water and heat and, you know, the kind of more basic things. And then they're coming to safety. So they have the physiological, then they need the safety, then they need the social, then they need the esteem, and then they need self-actualization. While it's quite simplistic, it does actually work if you understand your customers in this context. If you look at kind of models of cars, if you look at physiological needs, these are like the Kia or your Proton, something, you know, small and smart, kind of economically good. Safety needs, then you've like the Volvo for life, safety features, side impact, warning systems. You have social needs, sense of belonging or love. Esteem needs, you look at BMW, Mercedes, the more luxury brands, self-development and realization. So again, it's quite sweeping generalizations in some respects, but if you can understand your product or service in regard to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's a very simple graphical representation that can help you to decide, do you know what? My customers are quite social. Mine need safety. Mine need are up here at self-actualization. So where are they on this scale, and what can you provide for them? So marketers need to focus on the entire buying process rather than just on the purchase decision. That's really, really important, because often people just look at the purchase decision and they've skipped all the rest. So there's total lack of understanding, if you like. So that would be a hugely important aspect as well of your business. And conducting consumer research, again, like I've been saying since the start, these individual stages are hugely important to understand. So, you know, if people, this is just a simple diagram. So people have a need, they recognize they have a need. Then they look at their information search, the evaluation of alternatives. So this is where your competitors come in, the purchase decision, and the post-purchase behavior. This can often be overlooked as well. So these are huge. So you've got step one, they know they need something. You know, so these are all the steps, and you know, I won't go through every one of them because it's getting later in the webinar, and I know people are tired. You will get the replay, and you know, if you would like the slides as well, you can have them too. But basically, people now identify they have a need. You know, they want something, they desire something. It's a trigger recognition. Step two is the information research. So they're literally looking into their research for it. They look at competitors, and this is where you, as a business owner, need to understand your competitors. It's hugely, hugely important. Then you have the alternatives. So again, your competitors, who are they? So know your customers' products, your competitors rather, and products and services. Purchase decision, then they make the decision to buy based on all the decision making, based on all the influences, based on so many different elements that you need to understand. But I said, you know, break it down, ask them, just ask your customers, ask people. The other one, just to look at there, is the first factor is the actual, if someone important to you thinks that you should buy the lowest price car, then the chances of you buying a more expensive car are reduced. We were kind of talking about that earlier, but you can see the reason around that. Unexpected situational factors, these can be economic, you lose your job, income, you know, different reasons. They can be situational as well, just to understand the greater environment around your business as well. Post-purchase, this is where somebody kind of says, oh gosh, why did I buy that? It's buyer's remorse, cognitive dissonance, buyer's remorse. So one way around this, actually, that I've learned in my sales career is to reiterate for people at the end of buying something, be it that you say it verbally or in an email, but literally list off at least 3 aspects of your product or service that are so good, that it was so good. You know, it's great that you bought this because 1, 2, 3. And the reason you do that is because when people go home, their mother, their father, their spouse could say to them, why did you buy that car? You know, you should have bought, you know, another car. If you've been giving them the post-purchase reasons that it was really good for them to buy, they will be able to think at least one. So when the person, their husband perhaps says, why did you buy that? Well, you will say, well, you know, give them at least one good reason. You know, so it kind of reduces the amount of buyer's remorse. They remember why. Okay, that's really, really important aspect. So recap, consumer psychology. It sounds, you know, really awful. And I hope, you know, that this has been helpful to you. But it's really just the psychology of how consumers think, feel, reason, and select between different brands. Human behavior while shopping or making buying decisions. And you can see there's quite a lot of different elements to it. You know, but it is important for you as a business owner to understand the different elements. And once you do, and once you start asking questions and, you know, doing maybe some focus groups or even just some surveys, it will help you to understand your customer, and therefore you'll understand why they're buying your particular product or service. Again, individual behavior is influenced by friends, family, and reference groups. Example, the kind of clothes a person wears, and in an organization, decision makers make decisions on what the company should buy. So if you're selling B2B, this is hugely important. So, you know, the product use is of huge interest to a marketer, how to position your product. So again, what do they use it for? Again, definition of culture and subculture. We've gone through all this. So again, just a bit of a recap. Looking at, you know, Gert Hofstede is looking at things like individualism, collectivism. This is just really if you're looking at the Asian market, because they have a different mindset to the Western world. So it's very important to understand, is somebody individualistic? They only look at themselves, or they look at their kind of collective family and group around them as well. Power distance, your rank, you know, are you a CEO, are you a lower end on this, you know, on the social scale? Masculinism as opposed to feminism in society, you know, uncertainty avoidance, do people avoid risk? You know, all these are just things to highlight in terms of the type of society that your target market or your customer lives in, because that will influence their buying behavior. Okay. Again, the Harley-Davidson is highly involved in the purchase decisions of product, brand, accessories. So the consumer is very loyal and they're highly involved because they identify with that particular brand. So again, just to go over the consumer decision-making process is the need, the alternative research in terms of other competitors, the alternative evaluation, the purchase decision, and post-purchase evaluation. Again, make sure people have at least 3 reasons, good reasons why they should have bought your product or service. You can stop cognitive dissonance. So just a bit of a picture of the Harley-Davidson brand, and you can see loads of different people have it from across sections of society, and you can see they had 7 core types of people that would be their typical customers. So again, a tip from this webinar is write down, you know, several, you know, if you can think of 7, definitely 7 different types of people that would use your brand or service. It'd be hugely helpful. And they're really successful because of it. Now, and again, just an overview of the buying decision is social influences, marketing influences. Again, how often you're marketing, where you're marketing, is it on social media, is it email? The situational influences, these all influence the psychological. They all influence the consumer, and then they make their decision. Okay, so that's kind of a more simplistic way of looking at it very neatly. Demographics, again, is their large population, social class, employment, social mobility. Again, I'm just reiterating some of these examples. Coca-Cola is a really good example because, you know, do people have a preference for taste or low calories? Is there a preference for Coca-Cola versus Pepsi? Price sensitivity, willingness to pay for brands. Are they heavy versus light consumers? You know, if you look at Coca-Cola as a brand, it's a fizzy drink. And look how important that brand is. And really, a lot of that is through just advertising, brand awareness, brand awareness, brand awareness. A couple of questions for you as a business owner. How well are existing segments served by other businesses? How large is that segment? Will it grow? What are your business strengths? What is your competitive strengths? I can email, again, this to you so you can have that as well. And that's just a good graphical for you. So I'm just going to flick through these because it's been a long time. You know, I'm so sorry that it's been so late in terms of the webinar itself. You know, so a lot of this is just repetition, so I'll just flick through that. And really, you know, what I would suggest to you all is, you know, look at some market research, some questions to ask your customers. Also look at the core beliefs and the core types of people that are your, you know, like for Harley-Davidson, who buys from you, and make a list of them and market to them. You know, that's the most simple thing that you can do. Just quickly, if you'd like to work with me, I do power hours, and I'm doing them for $47 an hour for attending the webinar. And I also do a Grow Your Business in 90 days, and there's a webinar price for that as well. Now, I kind of had to speed my way through all that because I was so late starting. Apologies for that. I would like to thank you so much for staying with me, and I really, really do appreciate what you staying with me. I still have my 2 viewers. Thank you so much, Shawnee and Lucia. I have to send the replay to everybody else. So I suppose this is really my first webinar, even though it's my second one, because again, the technology didn't work well the last time either. But thank you so much for staying with me. I really appreciate both of you listening. And I said I will send you the replay. I would really appreciate, if you don't mind, some feedback. I did go through some of the topic, maybe perhaps a little bit fast. I'm looking at, I have some worksheets. Would you appreciate some worksheets that you could work through that are, less dense, if you like, from the webinar, in that it could just help you, a couple of sheets just to help you to work through, to help you decide your who your target market is and what influences their buying behavior. So if they'd be of interest to you, if you can just drop me an email, that would be great. And so, I would like to thank you very much. And as I said, I'll send you the replay, and I hope to see you in the next webinar. And I will be sending out a little survey to see what types of topics you would like. I am thinking of perhaps Google AdWords or other different marketing topics. And, perhaps you could let me know what you would like to hear and what would be helpful. Thank you very much for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye from Emma D.